Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're taking a look over here at the XRP price chart, as it's been about a week since we've really dove into XRP's price action and what's been happening here, as the price has really just been running sideways for the last 2.5 weeks after that big liquidation that exceeded FTX happened back there on August 17th, August 18th. Pretty much the extent of the discussion when it comes to XRP has just been how it's been working on a completion of what a capitulation would look like in here. And the expectation for the last couple of weeks has really just been kind of let it cool off, let it play out, and let some accumulation schematics start to develop in here, which it's appearing like we could be getting them to start having already emerged in here. And we may be already pretty deep into this. But I think we're all more interested in what's going on the bigger time frame for XRP, especially when we look to Bitcoin, how the sentiment has flipped entirely from what it was 2 weeks ago. Everybody thinks that we're going to be breaking down in Bitcoin now. But in today's video, I'm going to paint kind of a bigger picture on at least what I see with XRP right now, and revisit a couple of things that we've talked about that we were looking for to show up on the altcoin market versus XRP, and how all those things are now occurring right now. So we'll kind of run through this step by step. I think the first thing we're all looking at is being like, hey, okay, look, we did the 85.5% crash throughout all of 2022 and 2021. 2023 has been kind of that rebuild. And then finally we get the breakout. It happens there with the summary judgment ruling that XRP is not a security, the only asset in the cryptocurrency market with actual real legal clarity. Price breaks from the range and then we pull right back in. And now as time drifts on and on and on, we're getting much further beyond where you would hope to be had you already been inside of a big old moonshot, right? So the first question, of course, is this thing entirely broken? Well, from a time perspective, it's definitely beyond, right? The reality is it was acting right on time. It was within 6 days. 820 days versus 826 days. Boom, right? If it was still acting on time, it would still already be, heck, I mean, we'd be hitting all-time highs right now, right? So we definitely have to say, yeah, time perspective, you can't use it anymore. It's just the reality of it. Now the question is there any validity to using this thing at all anymore? Well, we can look back to see, well, where did the pullbacks happen in here, right? We know it broke out in here. That was our big problem with XRP at this point right here, how high we were above the breakout levels, and that everything showed us that we had to do back tests on top of that range to confirm it as some type of support. Bitcoin wasn't giving us the signs we were ready to go. XRP was acting odd. But now not only did we come back, we went beyond it, right? So is that completely out of line with how price would have behaved in here, right? Well, we could see how far it does pull back. We could see we pretty much get down to right here, right? This is our pullback area for those who were here like in 22.5 days, on why that was important for those who've been following like the DXY. We talk about DXY in markets in the morning every day. And throughout all of 2023, the expectation was that we would break our supports that we held all year. But the thing to watch would be what would happen between 99 to 100. And why is that? Well, we just shift on over here. That's that level. That's that level where you can find those supports at over there for the DXY. That's what you have over here for XRP during this period. That's where you have that pullback, that support found right on there. Notice it's the pull down off of the top, first little rally, then rolls over, right? Pulls down off the top, little rally, pulls down. That's really the area where the support gets found. That's for those who were here back into the 22.5 days. For those who were here during this time, you remember 22.5 for those who were here? Well, that's because that's what that was. So while it sure would have been nice to see price just be very easy in here and just hold right on top of the supports, as Stellar Lumens decided to do. Of course, as you guys know, Stellar Lumens broke out right when XRP did with that SEC news. Stellar Lumens did hold right on top of the supports. And while it would have been nice for that, are we at least in that type of support area in here? And I would say, yes, we are in there of where price can still be okay. Zooming out a little bit, many of you know, I'm not a huge fan of trend lines. I don't like them. The rules on them, you just violate them all you want, but give you a little bit of an idea too. Are you a trend liner fan, and did it shatter your trend lines? Hard for me to put a lot of weight on that, but I can clearly see from the peak to the rejection to the back test, there you go, trend liners. It's usually not going to be good enough for me. I'm usually going to need more than that. Trend lines are really just trying to find confluence of price with time and forecasting, like a fortune teller of where price is going to be at a very specific place in time merely based by drawing a diagonal line on a chart. For me, it's hard to put a lot of weight on that because all that has to happen is we have to shift our trend line. In the event of it failing, then we start saying, well, do we only use body closes? Do we start using wicks? Do we use a combination of wicks and closes for drawing our trend lines? And I think everybody kind of knows my thoughts on that. Either way, if you like them, hey, you had kind of a whack on it. But I think the thing to kind of notice here, where supports were found in your fractal, is that you found them really in this one right here. So it's kind of at like a make or break point on that. If it's going to stay with that, I would say from a time perspective, broken. Now question is, structurally, can it maintain? If it stays here and maintains, likely okay. But I do know people ask in markets in the morning, what do you think about that fractal now that this has occurred? Time-wise, was within 6 days on an 826-day fractal, nearly perfect. Now it's definitely drifting. So what has been the element that has been missing for XRP to go on a big move? And those are the things that we were talking about for the last couple of months. And that's really just been Bitcoin, right? And so you look around you, everybody is screaming that Bitcoin's going to collapse now, as it does sit on top of a very important support level. And so like we can look at the support level just really quick to understand how important this one is right here. This has been a support level that has held since May of 2022. Once it broke, it was then a resistance all the way till March of 2023, found its support there again in June of 2022. And to this day, it is still acting as support. It is not broken. However, the breakage of the support would likely be pretty bad. Is it uncommon for everybody in the world to scream we're going to break down when we're at supports? No, it's super common. It's just like at tops. At tops, everybody's screaming we're going to go way higher, and at bottoms, everybody's screaming we're going to go way lower. If the support breaks, then the support breaks, but it would be highly unusual for the behavior to do that. The thing I see a lot of people point to is block reward halvings. As you guys know, I have absolutely zero belief that the price movement of Bitcoin is in any way correlated to the block reward halving at any point now. I believe it is fully tied to macro markets. If you're a viewer and you disagree with that and you haven't seen my content on that, go ahead, post your angry comment. I'm not going to debate you today. I've done enough of it. But the reality is the peak of the market for Bitcoin happened back in April of 2021. We can definitely see that on the monthly time frame, how the strength, right? See, here's your December of 2017 bull run. Here's the pop in January of 2018. You see how everything just falls off the cliff and it goes down into Doomtown afterwards, right? That's where we start here in April of 2021. When Coinbase IPOs, the peak comes in, boom, off and away we go into Doomtown, one of the more confusing market conditions out there. And to this day, still a lot of confusion and unwillingness to accept that this was where the big money exited the market. So a lot of people still use this as your peak of the market, even though the market was vastly weak at that point, right? So this is 7 months later after, to give you kind of a difference of what 2017 was like compared to 2021, right? 7 months, right? You're sitting here in June of 2017. The price is $2,400 for Bitcoin. It then goes to $20,000. This is at $64,000 goes to 69, right? This nearly 10x's. This goes up by less than 10%. There's a very clear, obvious peak that has happened here in the market. And all the conditions come to a conclusion in here. And so a lot of people are still using the 4-year block reward halving thing to forecast out. But when you really kind of take into consideration, this is where the peak of the market actually ends up happening. And we start saying, what was it like back in 2015, right? I've shown this to you guys before. All these things are happening right on point, right on time. The capitulations are happening in here. The thing that has confused the market the most and why the 12K calls still keep happening is because 2015, 2018, they're both like these 84, 86% drawdowns. If you go to 12K, hey, we've done the 82, 84, 86% drawdown. But the thing not factored into the calculation here for those 82, 84, 86% drawdowns is this, right? You just didn't go that high, Bitcoin. You didn't go high. You didn't go high enough to cause excessiveness. Like if you went way up here, yeah, let's go, man. Let's do it, right? That would make sense from here, right? That we have this capitulation, but we do it from a higher price. Do it from your 100K, but we just didn't go as high, right? But if you look at where price is and where price would be if we were in 2015, because I'm seeing it over there on Twitter, I'm seeing stuff like, hey, this is the worst Bitcoin bear market we've ever had in all time. Let's go look at 2015 and understand it. Where was price at exactly at this moment in time? Right here. We're right on line, right in line. right? And so a lot of people, of course, want to see the price break down like it did in 2017, but that's not the case here in 2015, right? It spends time consolidating underneath a level, it breaks from the level, consolidates on the next level, and then works up like a staircase, right? So staircase price action happening. But from a time perspective of 2015, understanding where the top of the market came in with all on-chain behavior and technical behavior and laser eyes and diamond hands, right? This was a quiet market in here. This was not quiet. This is Wall Street bets, everybody pumping everything they want, Doge, Elon Musk, all the craziness happening in here, right? That's your peak. Price is right where it should be. Let's go take a look at what we were doing if we were, say, in 2018 through 2020 at this point right now. Where would you be? Holy guacamole, we're in the right same spot as well. So you have to ask, well, which one are we behaving more like? Are we behaving more like 2019, where we go rallying into this big rally that takes us all the way back up and then we're going to come crumbling back down? Or are we kind of behaving more in line with what it was like back in 2015 and 16 here, where it's just a kind of a slow grind? I would argue that if you have the bull thesis for Bitcoin long term, this would be more of your argument. But even so, where do you sit currently right now? It's as if you're right where you're exactly supposed to be in both of them. The price is actually sitting in between the two of them. You can see that for yourselves. Actually, right on top of 2015. So it has spent time in between both of them and not out of line, right? It's just been kind of a mix of the two. And then now we've kind of found confluence where we're all together. So is it the worst of all time? No. Want to know what it was like to be in 2018 through 2020 or 2014 through 2016? Now you know. This is what it was like. Of course, I wasn't here in 2016, but definitely was here in 2018 through 2020, and definitely remember all this stuff in here. I mean, I remember it all, but from being on the content creator aspect side of it, remember all of this. This is where everybody, we're coming off of C19, everybody's still screaming, we're going to go much lower. But the point of this is, like, we're on top of a very important support, you would think. Breaking from here currently right now, right? Let's pretend that we do see price action go do this. Yikes, you've now left every scenario. Just from being this far into it, you've now deviated away from all of them. And it's important to remember that this one right here, this C19 sell-off, of course, it's tied to the global macro markets. It's also exactly what that accumulation schematic does in that phase during a super cycle, is that we do have that, right? We have that sell-off that takes you down here again, way back down to these lows once more with an A, B, C, A, B, C. So when we look at that, we say, oh, there's this big sell-off here. Well, we have to understand where we were in that phase, right? That is where we are at. That is consolidation before 4.236 extension. What comes after that? It comes the whole 2015 setup in here, right? So using the 2015 setup is a more logical one to use in this phase. And fortunately, price is currently behaving in that manner where it's breaking out of the support levels, building on the support levels, starting right exactly where it should be starting. And so currently the support levels are holding. And so it's like, well, wait, this is supposed to be an XRP video. Why are we spending so much time talking about Bitcoin? And it's because that's the element that was missing for XRP. And it's still missing for XRP. It's still missing that the whole market is moving up together. So if anyone has the thesis that we are going to be breaking through this support, if your thesis is that we're not going to have any more upward velocity, we're not even going to go into a real retracement here for Bitcoin, but you think we're going to break down from here, likely not good for XRP. But I wanted to point out for those who have that view, where we are currently right now in relation to where we've been in the past, where we are right now in regards to being on top of a support level, and that we should be here on top of this support level, and it hasn't broken. Everybody's screaming that it's going to break, but it hasn't broken. And so long as it is holding, well, what did it mean? It meant that was the beginning of things to get rolling up to the upside for the market, that another level eventually comes, that the market eventually shifts its way up and continues working to the upside in each phase, right? So we're either at this junction where everyone thinks we're all going to completely break apart. If we completely break apart, yep, probably not good for XRP. But if everybody is wrong, which even Zero Hedge is over there on the same side of retail, then it would be what we typically see in uptrends. At the peaks, everybody's euphoric. At the troughs, everybody's massively bearish. And it's been an interesting phenomenon to watch in 2023, as at every single peak, in every single trough especially, we've had the 12K happen here. The 12K calls at every single trough. But I do want to show this to you, XRP holders, which you hate to hear. You hate to hear that XRP is tied to Bitcoin. Bitcoiners think I'm so anti-Bitcoin, but then I make that statement and they like, it makes some logical sense at least. But XRP holders, got to acknowledge it for the reality of what it is, right? So it's one big trade, right? It's one big market trade, and so far so good. And like to look at some other economic data, like things we've talked about. One of the interesting ones has been the overnight reverse repurchase agreements, or the overnight repo market over there at the Fed, where institutions can park their money in there overnight, get an interest rate close to the federal funds rate rather than having to lock it up in treasuries. And even over here, like there's a lack of faith that the Fed's going to be able to continue raising, and you see this money is flooding out of the Fed now. Now, I've been talking about this for the last couple of months over here to see if this money starts flooding out of here, that it would be an optimistic sign for the market. I first wrote about this over here on Money Printer Go Burr over on my Substack, criticizing the idea that money printer go burr is what it means when the United States government raises the debt ceiling, or if the Fed pauses interest rate hikes. That the first place to look is the Fed is not just magically going to start printing money and start buying stocks, which is what everybody wants. They want interest rate cuts. They want quantitative easing. They want the Fed to load money into the markets, and that just would not be the order of operations on how things would happen. But that the first thing to pay attention to would be this overnight reverse repurchase agreement market, where there's over $2 trillion in it. At the time of this write-up, there was $2.25 trillion sitting over here, and we had stated, but if the Treasury can somehow get the $2.2 trillion to come out of the Fed reverse repo facility, then all could be well. This is money that is not doing anything to stimulate the economy, is just chasing risk-free return at the Fed. So as it sat here at 2.2 trillion, what did we start seeing? We started seeing it pull down, right? But it sat here on top of these supports right here, right? This is like the $2 trillion level. It's where it had been ever since June of 2022. It sat on top of here the whole time. We can draw a fib right here on top of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. You can see we've been battling against the 702 retracement the entire time while we're over here. And we'll go ahead and kind of play this thing along to show what happens. Boom, it breaks down, and boom, stocks break out, right? So I'll reset that a little bit to see that again in there. You could see it actually ends up breaking down. The money floods out of the Fed, out of the reverse repo market, and out goes the stock market. All retracement levels, all of them get taken. Okay, let's look at reverse repos versus Bitcoin. Here we go. This is where it really starts to kick off. What happens? Bitcoin, doom town. Here we go. It reaches its peak right in here. Where's Bitcoin? At its bottom, reverses, up and up we go. Now, XRP, are you ready for it? Here we go. Here it comes. Here we go. We're shooting to that $2, and then off and away goes the reverse repo. Up, 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 up. Okay. This is now where the reverse repo has kind of stalled out here. You can see it's been here from September through February. Not a huge change. You can see it kind of peaked right here. September 30th, October 1st. It's still actually a little bit below it here while it's rallied around it. No huge change happening, unlike this big trajectory that's happening in here, right? The liftoff of the reverse repo starts right in here. This marks the peak of XRP. Here we are shifting in here. Now what happens? Boom. Breakout in repos. Breakout. Breakdown in XRP. Okay, now things have suddenly slowed down. Now we've gotten on top of this $2 trillion level over here. You can see that over here on the left side, 2.15. Notice where XRP is right now. Let's go. Looks like my box is wanting to move on me. Still 2 trillion right there. And boom. No. No. Could it really be? Could it really be? It's all a big macro trade. Notice what happens here. It finally leaves, right? Repos break. That's the breaking point here in the market. Prices hold. $2 trillion. Sits right on top of it the whole time. Breaks down. Summary judgment breakout. Come on. But go back and look at this again, right? What do we actually see? Even XRP right there. Liquidity game, right? Money flows out of markets, flows into the reverse repo, stalls out XRP's price stalls out, hits the bottom. Look at where this happens, right? There's like this big wick upwards into the reverse repo, and then this wick right here for XRP, that marks a reversal, right? But here you go, stock, all the same thing. Reverse repos break, and then magical unicorn, fairy dust, puppet masters, all that good stuff happens at just the right time. So we operating on block rewards, or is it a macro trade? My argument is still Bitcoin, crypto, it's all a big macro trade. And that we see macro responding to these things happening with the reverse repo at the same time. Unfortunately, structurally, we'll let that go just a little bit more. We could see we're still setting in higher highs, higher lows everywhere here for the stock market. And what wasn't noticed last week by most people is how much more that repo really broke down. And that there is a small lag in here. We can look in here and see this. Like, this is the breakdown really setting in right in here for the repos. Notice this, but it took several more days, right? Like 15 days for the price to really get its way up and for the breakouts to happen, right? The actual breakthrough, the 702 retracement, took 6 days later after the breakdown already occurred, right? So the breakdown had already fallen, and that fall had lasted for 12 days. And then there it was the next 6 days, so 4 trading days after that. That's finally when the breakout actually ends up happening. And I don't think anybody has noticed the next leg has already begun in here. And so, you got prices that moved down really aggressively a week and a half ago. That, of course, happened for Bitcoin. And it hasn't been noticed yet by the market that liquidity is entering back in. And for those who like zero hedge for their Bitcoin news, Bitcoin about to hit the old trap door. They're telling you it's even being drained and it's going into risk assets. So zero hedge, I don't know, man. But to be screaming, Bitcoin's going to break all of its supports when it's sitting right on top of them as it should. And there's the liquidity leaving the Fed. Because while everybody's looking for Jerome Powell to make the money printer go brr, that's not what's going to happen. This thing's got to drain first. And it is. Everyone's screaming this thing is going to break down. You have supports. You have liquidity coming. The price of Bitcoin is exactly where it should be. So XRP. Right now, it seems like it's at an okay price level of where it should be to continue holding in here. At the same time, you have Bitcoin right where it should be, this deep into everything, and it's even sitting right on top of a support. So long as Bitcoin maintains its support as it did in 2015, which even if we take a look over here at the market cap of Bitcoin and align it just properly, you could see this is right where we're supposed to be, this deep into everything right in here. As long as we continue to maintain supports in here for Bitcoin, it's likely fine for XRP. We've seen all of these things play out in here. Bitcoin's right where the price should be at this particular time into all of it. And the stock market is humming along as it should be. And the reverse repo is draining as it should be. So reverse repo draining, check mark. Stock market rising, check mark. Next thing to look for, Bitcoin rising. Then we have the check mark. Then, hey, XRP, you got what you're looking for. And again, I always, it's kind of a joke. It's not the most sexy thing to have to look to all the macro markets to be the justifications for why prices move within crypto, because there's so many narratives associated with it. But I've always tried to explain how there is this tie that happens here between macro trends and between crypto, and that you can even see it right in here, even with XRP's price action, that when the repo facility opens, that marks the peak over there for XRP. And what do you know? I mean, is it a simulation? Is it all planned? We finally get the reverse repo to break down after a whole year. And then right then and there, we get some clarity over here for XRP. So, you look to these conditions, this is good. You look to stock market, you say this is good with the right behind the scenes conditions going on. And then hate it or love it, it doesn't match the big narrative out there that Bitcoin's got to crash and crumble. It's still okay. If it does break below there, I just want you all to see that, right? If you go breaking down from here, understanding how deep into this you are at this point, why it creates additional problems. I've argued that the 12Kers, the masses of 12 people for 12K, and their thesis is we go there and it's bullish and you buy it. My argument is if we go there, you have a structural break in Bitcoin's price behavior. And using an example of 2018 through 2020 is not appropriate because we never got anything close to price action to resemble anything like that. This went back into a retracement. As we know, Bitcoin topped out at about $31.8 thousand. For something like 2018, 19, and 20, we would have wanted to have seen about a $50,000 to $54,000 retracement come out of Bitcoin for it to be exhibiting something to be like, hey, we might go slam back into those lows again. Instead, we're really operating more along the lines of the staircase method, the staircase structure. So if we went breaking down from right here, we'd have to think of how weak Bitcoin is, how from a time perspective it is now way beyond where time should be for Bitcoin's price action, right? This is where the market cap would be, right? So even the market cap still even underneath. Look how long we're into this. The market cap of Bitcoin is below 2020 and 2015, 2016. The actual fair price for Bitcoin currently right now, if we were resembling the previous cycles, is that it would be sitting there at about $31,000 to $32,000 right now, not 12K. So I find this stuff fascinating. I spend all day in this stuff. I love sharing it with you when I can find these cool setups that end up happening in here and showing you these relationships between the macro trade that really bucks a lot of the narratives that we have out there on Twitter and YouTube and everything like that, to back it up with actual data and show you what has happened in here. But the positive sign of all of it, right? Whether this is hard to accept or not, the positive sign of it, hey, like it did react to it. Hey, look, it held down the whole time the repo facility sat above $2 trillion. It broke down. Hey, what do you know? We get summary judgment coming in. But the breakdown is still continuing to happen in here. That money is still leaving the Fed. And so like there's things we can be kind of mindful of right now, at least looking here within the current price action of Bitcoin and how deep we are into this. At this phase, right, what are you seriously seeing in here? You're seeing consistent higher lows set in here. Everything is a higher low. Even these big pullbacks, it sets a higher low and then holds itself in here. What happens in here, right? These are all series of higher lows happening in here. Where are we at right now? You're still at a higher low, right? Even in here, you had something kind of like this where it was just like, wham, slams right back in. But what happens? The higher lows still continue to hold in here to grind its way back up. That's a pretty clear thing that happens throughout all of this, is just the higher lows continuing to happen. So if a low gets broken, if the support gets taken out, which we already know is a meaningful long-term support in here for Bitcoin, then we know the rules of higher lows are being violated at least. It opens up the serious discussions in here for Bitcoin on its long-term trajectory. But as of right now, it's just like every time that these things happen when we've been in uptrends that everybody is screaming at the lows, even though they're higher lows. And that certainly is what happened in 2020. This whole time, I can always tell when somebody was not here during 2020 when they're screaming, oh yeah, everybody was bullish during this time. No, it was this exact same stuff. This one especially was that we were going to be breaking and we were going to be going back to 4K, 3K, maybe even new lows. So long as the low is still holding, all is well. But you can very clearly see it. Breaking of new lows should not happen in an uptrend. Breaking of new lows should not happen in an uptrend. And we even have that same rule over here in the stock market right now. Like we've talked about for the last couple of weeks, that we have the series of higher lows coming in here, and new lows should not be getting broken into. And if we do break into new lows, then it's a sign of trouble. So the hardest thing to say right now is, especially with XRP or with Bitcoin or with the whole macro trade, with all of it, is that it's really just a boring waiting game right now. And of course, everybody's on the edge of their seats. Everybody's in disagreement on what's going to happen in here, if it's going to break into new lows, if the upward trajectory of higher lows will continue anymore or not. And of course, everybody's in disagreement on what that would actually mean if it does end up occurring. I would say that probably 99% of the people who think that it goes to 12K is bullish. Of course, my thoughts are it would be obliteratingly bad for Bitcoin. But how do we debate that that is the case to happen in here as we still continue to hold these higher lows in here right now? So it's still waiting, higher highs, higher lows. No new lows are set currently right now. Things are okay, right? And I know how the world works. If we break down here, BCB, you know nothing. You don't know anything. I think it's crazier to sit there and say we're going to break supports and set new lows than it is to observe the idea that all the higher lows are holding, and especially that the price is actually really where it's supposed to be, based on really where the market did top back in 2021. And of course, with this liquidity thing going on back here in the background with the repos and the stock market really able to hold itself all together still currently right now. So I'm going to remain optimistic on it. I'd change my tune in a heartbeat should Bitcoin start setting lower lows, and should Bitcoin start breaking through this support level that's been there for a year and a half. Otherwise, what we have is what we typically have. You have max fear on top of a support level right now. So the hardest thing to do in situations like this, and the things that we all see, is we see the higher lows, we see the macro conditions, we see the stock market rising, you see the correlations between repos and between the stock market, between XRP and between Bitcoin. The only thing to do here is to sit and wait. Bite your fingernails. Is the support level going to hold? Are the higher lows going to continue to hold? And if the higher lows continue to hold, then, well, you just keep on marching along. And every dip we have, the next one, of course, we'll see the screams for 12K once again. But till then, I think it's important to see you got favorable conditions in the stock market, the repo market, the correlation between crypto and the repo market, and you have the higher lows on top of a major support. Now we all just sit here and wait. And so since those higher lows in Bitcoin still sit there, the inverse relationship between what the repo market is doing and what XRP has been doing, and that the repo market is continuing to go down, everything seems okay in there. The stock market and Bitcoin on top of its supports, it's all just waiting for the next move down. And of course, this is just painful because Bitcoin sat here at this $26,000 price level for like almost 3 weeks now. And it's hard to say much more than repos are breaking down. Higher lows are still holding for Bitcoin. XRP versus the market caps have finally reached their 200-week moving averages. And now we're all just sitting around twiddling our thumbs, waiting for the decision to happen on if Bitcoin will maintain the higher lows and if the stock market will maintain the higher lows, which it has so far. So until something moves with those ones, we're all just kind of stuck here at that same point. So the only thing we can look for right now is other conditions happening out there. And that's why I'm pointing to the repos a lot right now, because we saw the correlation of when they broke down. And then there was a little bit of a delay, but then markets did break out with them. And so since repos are breaking out down again now, it's trying to find that sign. Will Bitcoin hold the higher lows? Will the stock market hold the higher lows? And what was the thing that happened that caused the markets to move last time? And the last time it was a few days of a delay after the repo started to drain. And we see this happening right now, that the repo is draining again. So otherwise, the story is really just the same of just sitting there waiting. But I wanted to show you the optimistic things that I see, and then also outline the things that would change those if Bitcoin did break its support, if Bitcoin broke into new lows and suddenly we didn't have the higher lows anymore. Those things would start to technically change on the charts. Until then, while everybody does scream that we're in Doomtown right now, there are no lower lows. There's not in the stock market, there's not in Bitcoin, and the repos are draining. So we'll sit here twiddling our thumbs till we get something to happen. Otherwise, I hope that you guys are doing well, and I hope that you're having a wonderful weekend. Today is Labor Day. Stock market is closed today, but I am able to get you guys out a long video today. So I hope that you're having a wonderful holiday weekend if you do celebrate that where you live. I don't know. I know not everybody lives in the United States, but we do have Labor Day here. Kids are out of school. Everybody's home. It's a day of just like family activities for us. So I wish you all the best. I'll check in with you guys this week. We'll have markets in the morning this week, of course, and I'll check in with you tomorrow morning. Of course, if you're looking for something to do and you want some more content from me today to get you through the holiday day, you can check out bcbacker.com and check out the over 40 videos and over 11 hours of content I have on here that I've recorded here in 2023. That's over here on bcbacker.com. There's a link in the description of this video. So, all right, that's going to be it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.